if you do all of those things, I think you can be whoever the fuck you want to be in like 18 months.
Hey guys, welcome back to Be the Standard. I'm your host, Danny Jamazzo, and today I'm here with a very special guest, Matt Murphy. Matt, awesome to meet you, man.
Good to meet you, man.
So I want to kind of kick things off. I mean, I know you're a father of 3 daughters. You're a former Green Beret, foreign weapons expert, and you're currently the executive of True North. That's a strategic and tactical intelligence company. I'm not really sure where to start, man. You got a lot going on. You do a lot of things, a lot of what I consider to be awesome things. But maybe just start about, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your background, and kind of what brings you here.
Definitely, brother. Well, again, thanks for having me today, man. Excited to be on the show. I born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. Grew up in the hood, so to speak, and my mom remarried, and then we ended up in the suburbs, man. So I got to see both sides of life, growing up, which was kind of cool. And went to college there and just hated everything I tried to major in. I didn't know what to do, and ended up on political science. I was going to be a lawyer, and then and now I joined the military. I got into an argument with a girl in class. And she's like, how can you be so patriotic or believe in what you believe in and you've never served or fought for the country? And I'm like, and that kind of got me, thinking, like, called me out kind of way just for how I looked at things. The war is, going on. This was 2005, so pretty new into the war. That was a big thing for the country at the time, and I just went to the recruiter's office and said, hey, I want to go fight in Iraq. And he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I want to fight in Iraq. I didn't even Google or look, I guess you could, maybe Google was around at that time. Or no, it wasn't big yet. But, even what people did in the military, I had no idea. I knew I wanted to do something cool. And he's like, do you want to be infantry? I'm like, yeah. So, I went in and did the MEPS thing, right? But they didn't tell me there was a piss test, right? So I was in college, and enjoying my time. And I popped hot on the piss test for weed. And I was like, oops. Well, and they was like, you should have told me. And they're like, well, you just didn't look like the kind of guy. And I was like, what do you mean? College kid? Come on, And so anyways, I had to wait a while to come back in, to write a letter to some colonel or somebody telling them I'm sorry, I'll never do, pot again. Yeah. And then they let me in. I did infantryman, went to Iraq, and it was in Solder City, so the surge of Solder City was my first deployment. It's pretty wild time.
Is that 07?
07 and 08.
Yeah,
yep.
I remember that.
Yeah, man, it was wild, and I was in JSS Comanche, so just like a platoon-sized element, just right there in the middle of Solder City, and next to JSS Solder City. And man, we had a time, to say the least. It was pretty wild. But I saw these guys coming in, most nights. And they would go in areas of town because we built that wall, to split the city in half. And these guys would come in just full beard, no uniform, just kitted out, and they would just be in Toyota Tacomas or Hiluxes, I guess. Yeah, Hiluxes over there, and they would go out, and then the Solder City skyline would just start lighting on fire, from the gunship, airstrikes, and all this stuff. It's like, I got to do that. So I found out those were the Green Berets, and as soon as I got back from Iraq, I put my packet in, went to selection, and then, it's short story long, ended up in 5th Special Forces Group, man, deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, did 4 years with the agency, detailed to them. Man, I had an amazing career. Got to just be, how, like they say, your military career is right place, right time, or wrong place, right time, you know what I mean? And I just got a whole lot of those experiences, man, from the 2018 time where we, killed about 400 Russians in Syria. I was a JTAC that night, or one of the 2 JTACs. And, I just had an amazing career. I got to see the world, just every experience you could possibly have in special operations and intelligence. I was lucky enough to just be there, just to be the guy that was there and got to play it, man. I wasn't cooler than anybody else. I just got lucky, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny, a lot of parallels there. After I got out of the Army, I went back to school and got my degree in political science, wanted to be a lawyer. Law school was just way too much money.
Yeah.
But we actually joined around the same time. I joined in 06, and same with you, man. I kind of just ended up getting recruited when I was working at the paint counter at Home Depot.
Oh, nice.
And he just walks in and kind of must have spotted an easy target. I don't know, but he ended up snagging me up, infantry. And but I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't kind of, well, what about this branch or what about this occupation? And if I had known a little bit more about the Green Berets, I'll be honest, I didn't know much. I did no homework. Again, infantry sounds cool. I can go deploy. Same thing. I wanted to do a job where if I was going to go, I was going to do something that mattered, right? I was going to be in the fight. But my unit was part of the surge in 07 as well. That spring, they all went to Iraq. I missed it because I had a trach.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I had an Army dentist down in Benning pull my wisdom tooth. It got infected. The infection spread through my throat and closed my airway.
Good
So,
Lord, man, Army dentist.
Yeah, man, I was in the ICU for 12 days. They flew my parents down. Like, it was a thing. But so they went to Iraq without me. But then a couple of years later, we went to Afghanistan. But
Okay.
yeah. So, but no, a lot of cool parallels there. And man, that's cool how you kind of got called out.
Yeah.
Got called out and was like, all right, I guess I got to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I look back, like, everything that's happened in my life, man. I wish I could go back to that girl and, like, high-five her and be like, gotcha.
Yeah.
For sure, man.
Yeah, so I actually want to move on to probably what I think is probably, or from what I can see from the outside looking in, is your biggest mission right now, and that's the human trafficking stuff, child exploitation. I think what you're doing there is just incredible, but tell me about it.
Yeah, man. Well, it has a horrible beginning, So with everything that I was doing in the military, I was pretty much on a path in my mind, to move into contracting, work for some, classified something somewhere, the rest of my life. But on the contract side, actually getting paid well,
Sure,
and, living on a sailboat, traveling the world. Just that was the life that I had planned. I was actually already doing, and I can't say this word to save my life, right, because I'm from the South, selling lessons, because that was my plan. I was going to go live on a sailboat and contract, But 2019, November 5th, 2019, my sister Sarah got picked up by a guy who had previously beaten her up and other things. I found out later. I did not know about this stuff. My parents hid a lot of things from me because they were just scared about what I might do. And she got picked up by this guy 30 minutes later, and Ring doorbell camera shows him getting her. And 30 minutes later, her cell phone never touched the tower again, and she was missing. We heard a lot of rumors. We hired a private investigator because, in my opinion, the cops didn't care and or really do what they should have done. And Christmas Eve rolls around, and we get a call that her body was found in a river in North Mississippi. So she was taken from Memphis, Tennessee, and then her body was found in a river in North Mississippi, Christmas Eve, 2019. And that was.
How old was she?
She was 26, man. And she got bad on drugs. All too common thing, I think, in this country. In the past 10 years is, starts off partying. She came from a family because she was the daughter of my stepdad who ended up adopting me. So he married my mom when I was 12. So we went from the hood to the suburbs. Went from schools where you might get shot to private schools.
Yeah.
And not shot because of school shootings, just because somebody had a bad day. You know what I mean? Like it was, even at 12, it was rough. You know, especially with the fighting and stuff and the gangs. They were already starting to recruit kids. It was just not a good place to be. And man, so through that, my sister grew up in, the private school life, the suburb, upper middle class suburb life, every opportunity. And it happens to those kids too, right? Just party drugs turn into hard drugs. And the worse the drugs get, the worse the people get, So that took a hold of my sister's life, and it just destroyed her. And she got in a lot of trouble, made a lot of mistakes. She had a daughter during that time, with somebody in equal level of life as her, going nowhere. And my mom had to take custody of my niece, Bella. Now she's an amazing little kid, but, it hasn't been easy, right? And, and then my sister was, trafficked before she was taken. So I found out because, when you get felonies, when you make mistakes, when you're charged with prescription fraud, you can't get a job.
Right.
And then you have an addiction, and those guys, take advantage of girls like her, right? And the only thing she has to sell or give is herself, you know? So it's just all too common throughout this country right now because of the fentanyl crisis, right?
Yeah, that's again a lot of parallels there as well. You know, my mother, she's the problems that you described with your sister sound like the problems my mother had: drugs, selling herself, having nothing else to give, can't get a job. It's sad to see family members go down that path.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, I mean, my uncle too, drugs, alcohol, but you know, there's always somebody in the family to fix that, or maybe address it in a different way, or you know, use the talent you have to be better. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry you hear that. I think that crushed me just listening to it because my sister, I've said it 100 times on my podcast, is my sister's my favorite person in the world.
Yeah.
And to think of that, like, just breaks my heart, man. So I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that, brother. And you know, I felt personally responsible, you know, or not responsible, but guilty that I couldn't do more because here I am, you know, Green Beret, agency trained guy, you know, and I can find a terrorist or, you know, have the people around me where, you know, if we want to find you, we will find you, you know, and we'll do a lot more than find you, right? And, you know, so there's a guilt that I still carry, you know, from that because I feel like I could have done more, and I feel like the cops should have done more. And there was a couple nights, like me and the boys loaded up in the car, and we were going to go murder every fucking dude in North Mississippi that even was close to this situation, right? And the only reason I didn't, and I got talked out of it multiple times, was because, you know, my mom, I got 3 daughters. At that time, I had 2.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, you do this, you know, what's going to happen to your daughters? You know, who's going to protect them? You know, and my mom, you know, as much as you could tell, she wanted me to do it too, you know. Of course. But you know, it's just so during that time, after that time, you know, 2020 rolled around, and yeah, you know, the world shut down from COVID, man, and I just became a drunk, you know, doing all kinds of things I shouldn't have been doing, still being active duty Army, right? And it was a very, very, very dark place, man. And you know, you know, a couple nights staring at the Glock, you know, I just it got dark, you know, just with everything, because man, you know, when you live the high tempo life that I had lived, you never have time to sit down and think about anything, you know, and how bad it is to, you know, hey, like all the lives you've taken, all the lives you've lost, all the things that you have done. You know, how many people have, you know, died because of you? How many people have probably didn't deserve it because of the things that you've done, you know? And it just, all these thoughts were going through my head. And then my sister too, I was in a messed up place, man. Yeah. And, you know, I had turned away from God and everything. As I grew up in the Southern Baptist kind of mentality, like, you know, hell, brimstone, fire, you know, church, but church to me was just nothing but fake ass people judging each other and talking crap and pretending to be a good Christian because they go to church on Sunday, but nobody lives like Jesus. Everybody just has their chin up in the air. You know, nobody's being a servant. Everybody's being a judge, you know, and so that made me hate religion. I hated religion because of what I saw of all churches, in my opinion, in the South and how they behave and act. And then, you know, all the money that they take from the people that go there, and instead of doing good with it, they just build bigger buildings and have a better band. Sure. You know, and Jesus was all about helping people. They're all about sending their kids on field trips to take pictures with little brown kids in other countries, you know. And I hated that mentality, man. It literally made me hate religion. If I haven't made it clear how much I hated what the church was. But I started to pray, and it was just it started this change in my life and this journey now that I've been on. And through prayer, man, it didn't change overnight for sure, but just every day God started to get a little bit better, you know. And I Googled human trafficking. I was like, what is it? You know, like, and saw how bad it was. And then you learn about child exploitation and just all these things that are happening to kids. And I'm like, nobody's doing anything about this? You know, like, I'm having to Google it and go down rabbit holes to, like, learn about how bad this is. Why isn't this on the news, right? Why isn't there a government task force? Why isn't there an army out there trying to save our children, right? So then I found out, like, about people like Tim Ballard and OUR and all these organizations, and I started to look at what they did and how they operated, and I didn't like it. I'm just be very blunt and honest. I didn't like how they operated, and I'm like, this isn't going to solve a problem. This is like, putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound kind of way, the way that they were addressing trafficking. So it's like there has to be a systematic change. You have to change this. So my initial thought, I was going to build an intel team, and we were going to target predators and basically also not target children, but, look for the victims, right? And then, have this, concept of this is how we can take down the guys. Let's find where the kids are, right? Let's find where where this is happening. And one of my buddies in Homeland Security heard about what I was going to do. And he's like, Matt, you might want to talk to somebody, man. That's sounds pretty illegal. You got to remember, you can't be Batman. This vigilante stuff. So he talked to some people in Homeland Security, and it was like a month and a half, I guess. I didn't hear anything back. He set me up at a meeting with this amazing human being. He's probably one of my favorite people ever. This guy named Andy, who's he investigates child exploitation, and saved countless children, with no accolades, no nothing. Just shows up to work every day and does it. And Andy's a Homeland Security agent, and he's like, hey, man, I'll try to introduce you to this guy named Jim Cole. I don't know if we'll take the meeting, because you got to remember, Special Forces guys like you are a dime a dozen trying to go save kids, And he wasn't trying to be an asshole, but he was right. Like, Tim Ballard made it cool. And I was like, bro, this ain't cool to me. This is personal, right? This is paying to purpose. Like, like if I'm doing this, so arrest me if you can, catch me if you can, kind of thing, right? So they ended up calling me to the Homeland Security headquarters in Nashville, and I walk in, and there's this huge boardroom just full of FBI, Secret Service, HSI people. I guess they looked at my resume and they're like, we should probably, talk to this guy. It's this huge table just full of federal agents, right? And I walked in and sit in the middle, and they're like, Matt, tell us what you want to do. And I told them, and I was like, man, this is awesome. They're all about this stuff, And Jim is sitting across from me, and he goes, Matt, if you do any of those things, we'll have to arrest you. That's illegal, and other people are doing similar things with approval. And I was like, well...
How do I get approval? What do I got to do to get approval?
Yeah, is this a recruitment meeting? And he goes, man, and he just kind of stared at me, and I just kind of looked up and said, well, all right, God, like, what are we doing? And he looks at me and he's like, well, now first I was like, then you tell me, man. You tell me what I can do, where you're not arresting me. In my head, I'm like, where you're not arresting me, and we can work together, we can help. And he had this model that was very similar to what I wanted to do. I wanted to look at it from a strategic intelligence approach, right? Like targeting, kind of that's what I do. Like target bad dudes, find them. And I, even though I'm not a signal intelligence OSINT analyst, cyber guy, I was a human intelligence guy, and I know what I need from them, and I know what they need from me in order to adequately build an entire picture to create a target, or to find a target. So he wanted to take law enforcement, because he sees the problem from the law enforcement lens. I'm seeing it from the data-driven capability lens, right? He wanted to take federal, state, local task force model and then partner it with the things that I was talking about. And I was like, all right, it hasn't been done before. No one's done it before. We got task forces to fight everything, right? But there's no task forces to save kids. So that was the day where the charity I started, called Operation Lightshine, got its model, right, to save kids. So I knew I needed money. Right, and luckily, I'm not going to name drop, but I have some really famous, country music buddies, and they introduced me to Tim Tebow, and then vouched to him for me. Yep. So I flew down. They call me, the CEO of the Tim Tebow Foundation. He's like, "Hey, Matt, you want to come down and meet me in Tim and tell us about what you want to do?" Yeah. So I told them and what I had talked about with Jim and this task force thing, and they're like, "Dude, we've been trying to figure out how to fight this domestically, for a long time." He's like, "We want to get to know you, but we're in. So anyways, I go down to Tim's house a little bit later. I'm hanging out with him and Demi and, getting to know him and stuff. And I get a text on my phone and from a buddy, because I'm always in some shady shit, and I'm still active duty Army at this point, right?
Okay.
But, COVID. Once I started the charity, my command called me in. They knew what happened to my sister and like, Matt, fuck off, save kids.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, all right.
Cool. So
Roger that.
Was that just like kind of a retirement thing? They forced retirement?
I had like
voluntary?
4 years left, but they're like, Matt, just go save kids. Because they heard about all I was doing,
awesome.
right?
So they did that in a supportive way.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
oh, yeah, like
That's awesome.
I wouldn't be here today if they hadn't done that,
That's cool.
And so I get this text on my phone, and it's, hey, Matt, can we get a plane in Afghanistan to pull 73 Christians out? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So, and that the drawdown started. And I knew that things were about to pull out, but shit just hit the fan. And Taliban's hunting Christians or hunting people that, were working for the U.S. interpreters. They're going full, Al-Qaeda. It's bad.
Yeah.
So that got me pulled into Afghanistan. So we started running brat lines and things throughout the country to pull people out into other countries. Flights coming in. We were building safe houses around. It just went. I went full back to my old job, right? Of just building networks, and there was a lot of other people doing amazing things there too, and we all kind of coordinated and worked together. And Tim, after I got that call, 5 minutes later, he gets a call from Glenn Devitt, the founder of Sentinel, I now run U.S. operations for, saying, "Hey man, Tim, we need some money to do this rescue stuff over in Afghanistan." Like literally 5 minutes after I'm trying to coordinate, I was like, "Hey, sorry, Tim, I got to take care of some shit," and I'm like trying to coordinate a plane, and then Tim's like, man, I got to go find some money, and help him out. A few days later, I'm flying down to this, confidential base in Florida, where some special operations things are planned and happen, and I'm in there with one of the plank holders for Delta Force, and all these amazing dudes from the unit who are now work with me every day. And but at that time, I didn't know anybody, right? I came from the Green Beret intel world. We all knew similar people. I didn't know any of them. It's a bunch of Delta boys.
Yeah.
And they're planning how their mission, how they're going to roll in Afghanistan, and I'm just sitting there, pushing, people that need to get rescued, vetting, validating stuff for them, just anything I do to help. You don't walk in and say, "All right, guys," kind of thing. So I kind of built my own thing with a guy named Sam, and we'll call him Sam. With Sam, and we did our thing in Afghanistan. Sentinel did their thing, and we just built this coalition of people that were just rescuing people.
Now was that primarily just rescuing the Christians, or is that kind of just assisting in any of our allies trying to get them out of Afghanistan?
Anyone, U.S. citizens. Sentinel was focused on U.S. citizens, and then anyone else they could help. I was focused on things passed to me through my network, right? Yeah. So it could be interpreters, people that were attached to different government agencies, anyone that worked for the U.S. government. I had to validate that they actually were in danger. Because a lot of them would get letters the Taliban were hunting them or wanted them to appear in court or some type of, basically show up, be tried, killed.
Right.
Yeah. So we just started rescuing anybody that needed to be
awesome.
rescued, man. So we got thousands of people out, in that time. And I met some of the most amazing people in my life. And again, I'm still active duty military, and I worked in a whole other world, but now I was opened up to a whole other world of charity. I got to see who was absolutely full of shit. Right, because there's so many snake oil salesmen that take people's money out there.
They're everywhere.
It just opened my eyes up to just how bad it is. Right.
And was a lot of this work being done right around the withdrawal, or just before the withdrawal? Or?
Before, during, and after.
Because that's something I'm going to want to talk about, but I want you to finish on this because it sounds like you did a lot of really cool stuff leading up to that time.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is that's what set up the trust between me and Tim, because not only did I get to show him, hey, I can operationally get shit done. He's like, this is a guy I can trust to give money to. But it also was a vet validation because he had supported the Sentinel boys so much, right? Mm-hmm. So for everybody to respect each other. So Glenn and I had this all right, you're going to do this, well, I'm going to do this kind of thing. Like a love-hate, I would say a love test relationship, right? Like, is this dude legit? Can he get shit done, right? Yeah. And then after Afghanistan, I just get the call. It's like, I was like, dude, it was crazy. He's like, yeah, we're going to wire $500,000 to your account to start that task force. Like, let's go.
Wow.
So I went to Jim Cole. I was like, hey, man, I got the check. Let's go. So he moved all his agents out of the federal building that were working trafficking and child exploitation into our task force.
Wow.
We got a building, launched a task force. Next thing you know, people from all over the world are flying in. They're like, what'd these guys do? You know? And man, you know, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, no.
There's so
Sounds
many
like a
things
lot of
I'm
moving
not.
parts, a
Bro,
lot of like.
I juggle chaos, man. That is one gift that I've been given, and you know, it turned into something. Next thing you know, we're launching task forces in Florida. Governor Youngkin donated his paycheck to start the task force in Virginia. I mean, Lightshine grew quickly, you know, and task forces are still kicking butt in Florida and in Virginia. I think they've expanded a couple more states, but you know, it became something I didn't want it to become, right? And what I mean by that is I wanted to be more strategic and tactical on the intelligence side and really go after the problem in the sense of at scale, how do we start targeting organizations, cartels? How do we start unraveling these networks? Most importantly, how do we start getting to these kids? Now, Lightshine's doing great stuff, and by no means am I saying they're not doing good stuff here, but it became almost bureaucratic. You know, the very thing I didn't want it to become, it became because it was so close, partner with the feds, working with state law enforcement and local law enforcement, all the bureaucracy, all the rules, all the regulations, all of the oversight, all of the things I didn't want to be anywhere near, all the problems I wanted to solve, Lightshine got pulled into that.
Sure.
So while it's still doing great things and it is a task force saving children, it wasn't the way I wanted to do it. Right. So I tried to build another model somewhere else. And, you know, that created issue, you know, and so there was, it just was like, okay, it's time for me to go my separate way, do it the way I want to do it in another organization. And so I resigned from Lightshine last summer as the CEO. I can't resign as a founder, I guess, but, you know, but I resigned as CEO. And then 5 minutes later, the board of Sentinel put me on as their president, right? Okay. So then we just rocking and rolling, man. But during that time, you know, me and Glenn and I had gotten closer and respected each other more because once Ukraine kicked off, the whole band of respected people that were making shit happen got back together and we just started rescuing people in Ukraine, right? Wow. You know, I don't give a crap about, you know, Ukraine, Russia, whatever. I don't get involved in all that nonsense. But anytime there's war, there's orphans, there's victims, there's problems. And so we just started focusing on orphans and we had some, you know, amazing things happen there, like the orphan rescues and, you know, pulling people out of bunkers under, you know, rocket and artillery fire. I mean, just crazy things that happened and the people that we got, the networks that we built. It was awesome, man. So that just got us closer to where, like, you know what, respect you, bro. You know, me and Glenn, you know. And cool. So then he, you know, made me the president of his foundation, you know, right after I resigned from Lightshine. So it's like, all right, let's go, you know. And so now, yeah, we're building out strategic tactical models now, and nothing against the feds. Some of the federal agents that I've met are just the most amazing people, you know, and become very close with, still talk with this day. I just cannot handle and I will not deal with the bureaucracy that I think is destroying this country. You know,
bureaucracy just gets in the way of the mission.
100%.
You know, it ultimately just you put a bunch of red tape around people being able to do their jobs and do it the right way and effectively. You become counterintuitive and counterproductive to what it is we're looking to accomplish. So
100%.
Couldn't agree more with, you know, bureaucracy just being more of a hindrance than a help.
Yeah, man. They want to. They're more risk adverse, and risk mitigation mean more than anything to them. And it's like, these are children. These are people that are being trafficked and enslaved. And you want to do everything you possibly can at the bureaucratic level to make it difficult. And the judicial system. It's all broken, man. Yeah. It's all broken. Now, but I'm not the type of guy that wants to just sit around and be like, oh, well, you know, this is terrible. No, we can't do anything. If there's a problem, you know, vanilla ice it. I'm going to solve it, man. You know, and that's how I like to live my life, right? I don't want to bitch about stuff. If I'm going to bitch about something, I'm going to do something to fix it, right? Or whatever I can do to fix it, or find the person who can, right? And so the model I'm working on now with Sentinel is a state task force led model where you can remove, there's still bureaucracy, there's still issues, there's still agencies, there's still departments, but there's less nonsense in working with the feds, right? So right now, it's kind of cool, like serendipitous, right as, I was coming over to Sentinel to focus on the state task force model. Governor DeSantis fired the attorney that was over Universal and that Disney, that whole district, because he wasn't prosecuting child crimes against children. And he put State Attorney Bain in that seat, and he told him to get a task force built and do it. Well, State Attorney Bain called me. He's like, Matt, let's go. So we've been working on that. Again,
Nice.
not easy, getting the foundation of that set up. But at the end of the day, we just want to save kids, man. Build systems and models to save children. Because
and it should, and at the surface, right, and just from a moral perspective, it sounds like something that should be very easy to do.
Yeah,
so it should be very easy to get funded. It should be very easy for us to want to do it, right? And you're shaking your head because I'm right.
Yeah, you're right, but it isn't, right?
Oh, right.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, man.
Sure.
Human trafficking and exploitation are the unseen crimes. Everyone sees murders. They see the rapes. They see the burglaries. It directly affects their life. It's in front of their face. It's on the news. All these people suffering in silence, you don't see it. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
It's and to the point to where people can be like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Where it's acknowledged by the government, the second largest crime globally now,
The
just
statistics are
under
insane.
drugs. But no one does shit about it. And our government spends $40 billion a year to fight drugs, the war on drugs. $40 billion. There's task forces. You've got HIDAs set up in states. You've got the DEA. You've got a whole government agency set up to fight trafficking. To fight drugs. Nothing for the second largest crime set in the world. And actually, man, if you want to be honest, and people can throw at every stone and arrow they want at me for this, I don't care. I'm going to tell the truth. I don't care. Our own government is the one trafficking all these people now. The Department of Homeland Security is the one, through funding all these charities, to bring all these undocumented immigrants across the border. There's no oversight. There's no regulation. We have millions and millions of people that are just coming into our country. They've lost, at the minimum, 320,000 children. That's 320,000 innocent little children's lives. No one knows where the hell they are in the U.S. right now. Make that make sense. But it's our own government doing it, and because our government's funding it, and they're funding these programs, they're funding these charities, what's the government going to do? Investigate itself? You think they're going to support me in looking into that? Right?
Yeah, no.
Let's be honest, right? Not being a conspiracy theorist, but if I start investigating the government's failures, catastrophic failures on immigration and children, and what's actually happening to all these kids that are bringing in, not just to mention all of our children that were born here. What do you think? Do you think they're going to be my fan, right? Do you think they're going to help me out, right?
Well, I mean, look at what has been happening now for just a number of years, especially over the last 3.5, 4, right? The numbers have just gone through the roof in terms of illegal crossings and children coming over. And when they say the things and push the message that you're pushing, you do hear, come on, that can't be happening. That's not true. Those numbers aren't accurate, right?
Yeah.
And it's coming from one political side, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to. My viewership knows exactly where I stand on all this stuff, so it doesn't matter. But
I make it pretty obvious as well.
But it's so it's disgusting to think that, like you said, they won't investigate themselves. But then, furthermore, when the public has something to say about it, we're conspiracy theorists, we're full of shit or whatever else.
Dude, I have been attacked every way from Sunday, man, and I just don't care anymore. The more people talk shit to me or about me or fight me or come at me, that's just my validation that I'm doing the right thing, man. Because no one's more hated than he who speaks the truth. And, man, my give a fucks, pardon the French, they're just gone, man. They're gone when it comes to what people... I don't care what people think anymore, man. I'm just going to do what's right, and I got a great group of people with me, and that it gets bigger and it grows every day. And you know what? If people want to talk shit, if people want to badmouth, if people want to discredit or not believe things, hey, man, more power to you, dude. I don't care. what you think, you know.
But to that point, the funniest thing is that people try to discredit it, and you just called it out. And this is a government statistic, right? That it's the second largest crime, right? So
in the world.
In the world. So how is this possibly not getting more attention? And
makes you wonder, right?
It's amazing, and it's like you said, it's self-funded.
Yeah, 100%. It's self-funded. You know, hundreds of millions of dollars, probably more than that, because you know how they break it into all these pools and bills, and you know, God knows where the money goes, right? You
they
know,
allocate
money,
funds how they need to.
100%, how they need to, and they go to all these charities that just popped up overnight, right? That are taking care of these immigrants and busing them around the country, housing them, paying them living stipends. Well, man, I mean, make it make sense. Like, you know, why are we doing this?
Right.
What's happening to these people? Most of these people don't speak English. They have no job skills, no job training. What's happening to these kids? I mean, we already have a fracturing system organically, right? Foster care, 68 to 72% of children will be sexually abused by the time they leave foster care.
I did 7 years in foster care. I'm fortunate I had the best foster mom in the world.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. The foster care program statistics in that sense are insane.
It's insane. But that's our own children, our own children that need help that we can't even protect.
Yep.
Child Protective Services, fractured. You've got here in Nashville, Tennessee, some nights, because I know the girls, and they can't ever say this publicly, that work there, that are, you know, charged with taking care, the social workers taking care of these kids. Sometimes they have kids sleeping on the couches in the offices because they have nowhere for them to go. Wow. These are our own kids, right? You know, these are American children, you know, that we can't take care of. And they're being victimized in these systems, and they're being trafficked out of these systems. You know, it's fucking hell, bro.
And that's one thing, and I think that's an important point to hit on. It's like we don't have our own house in order. We can't afford to be taking in kids from all over the place, too. And guess what? If we did have our house in order and our kids were taken care of, our people were taken care of, fed, clothed, you know, roof over their head and everything like that, I'd love to help as many people in the world as we possibly could, right?
Right.
But if we can't take care of our own first, that's a problem. Like we're spread too thin, and you know the rest of the world is always looking to us for our tax dollars, for us to open up our wallets.
But we're throwing money on to everyone, but we're hemorrhaging internally.
Yeah.
You know, if I've got a arterial bleed on my leg and I'm dying, and then I hand you my tourniquet and you got a cut. You know, it's, make that, it's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And then I'm dead, and that's literally like the best metaphor for America right now. We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, man, there's so many amazing people out there that care, that want to help, but not everyone's wealthy, right? And some people, if they can give $5, it makes a difference. Because if, 10,000 people give $5, now we got a lot of money, right? To do something, to help some people, but a lot of people are just like, Matt, what can I do to help? And I'm like, man, I hate to tell people there's not much you can do to help outside of donate, because I have to build these systems just to get law enforcement to help,
right?
Know, or to get them strategically pointed towards this. You can't be a vigilante. And while you got all these guys getting, street cred or whatever for calling out pedophiles on, social media or doing these videos where they set them up and, hey, man, you were here to have sex with a 12-year-old girl, calling you out, bro. It's like, hey, got it, but what good does that do? Because
he goes home and he finds another kid.
100%. He's not getting arrested.
Right.
Because you vigilante that whole thing, none of that evidence or nothing that you did could be utilized in court because there's no chain of custody on that. All you're doing is getting internet clout, and maybe you're making yourself feel better. I'm not trying to talk shit, but you have to tell the truth. Yeah. You have to tell the truth, right? Everyone needs to wake up to the truth. So if we can't tell the truth and start making a difference based on the truth, we're not going to get anywhere, right? And I'm not hating on these guys. I know they mean well, but, the best of intentions don't always lead to the best solutions, right?
Absolutely.
And they can cause more problems, and they are, because law enforcement can't work with people who do vigilante stuff, because if a vigilante helps them on a case, a good defense attorney is going to get that pedophile, even if there's a video of him with his penis in the kid, he's probably going to walk free based on the botched investigation or how they got the information, right? Yeah. You have to be careful, man. Yeah. So because of the way our law is set up, we still all have due process, right? We all are innocent until proven guilty by a jury of our peers, right? So we still do, even as fucked as everything is, there is still a functioning system, kind of, right? So, but it'll come after me before it'll come after a pedophile or a trafficker if I try to go after them the wrong way. Pretty messed up, right?
Yeah, that is super messed up. It's amazing. Like things have to be done, in that certain way for prosecutions to even happen.
It takes time. It takes time. You have to earn your keep. You have to build that respect. And I've got a lot of states, a lot of governors, AGs, a lot of people I'm talking with right now, man. That want solutions, but it's a mountain to climb even in every state because of different laws, regulations, motivations, politics. I'm pretty conservative, morals and values, so of course, very patriotic, pretty outspoken about it, right? I don't have liberal governors saying, "Hey, Matt, let's save some kids." That ain't happening. The only people reaching out to me are conservatives,
Sure.
and I wish liberal governors would reach out to me. It's a big problem. Well, that's people need to wake up to that.
In my opinion, when it comes to saving kids, helping kids, how can this not be? One of, if not the most bipartisan issue that we can agree on.
100%.
And agree to fund, and agree to, take action on it.
That was my thought. I was like, if we can't come together, no matter what side of the aisle you're on or aren't on, to save children, then we have a problem. In my mind, that means this country is done. If we can't even protect our own children, if we can't come together to agree that children are our most valuable asset because they literally are our future, right? If we can't protect them, then how long does America last?
Right.
And that's not a stretch to say what's happening to our children outside of just trafficking and exploitation, man. What's happening to our children right now, and you can see it, is it's the largest public health crisis in American history right now, what's happening to our children because of social media, technology, and all of those things.
That's what I wanted to pivot to next was because I know you're big on that, and even adults, even myself sometimes, I find myself with this goddamn thing in my phone, in my hand constantly, and I need to be better at it. But talk to me about, or let's pivot to that, right? Because I know that's something you focus a lot on. Is just kids with their phones, their tablets, their unlimited access to the internet. Like, what do you think that's doing to this country?
Destroying it. Literally, look at our kids. I mean, look at our children. They're weak. They're feeble. They're scared. They're angry. They're being sexualized at very young ages. They don't even know what gender they are anymore because they're being so confused by technology. And the people on that side, I won't say the side of the aisle, but just that crazy group of people, in my opinion, that think kids should be able to, mutilate themselves because,
Insane.
It's just, that just shows you how far we're gone. We're going to let a child cut their penis off because they feel like they're a girl. I wanted to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle when I was a child, right? So if you gave me the surgical option to become a Ninja Turtle, I probably would have been like, let's go. Kids should not be allowed to make decisions. We don't let people smoke until they're 21. We don't let them drink beers until they're 21. We don't let them drive. That's the first big milestone in growing up, right? In America, at least, is the most dangerous thing you can do is drive, right? Well, here you go, little Johnny. Here's a phone with every horrible thing in the world in it.
Yeah.
That you can access that can destroy your mind, destroy your sexuality, destroy the function and growth of your brain, and turn you into a unfunctioning adult. Here you go.
It's never seen it put that way, but it's so true. And the things that they're placing, the responsibility that they're placing into the hands of kids, and like you said, these decisions that I don't even have to go back to when I was a kid, pre 10 years old or whatever. I can go back to when I was in my early 20s and being like all the stupid shit that I did and just mistakes I made, and just not being mature enough to even at that age probably make the best decisions for myself, right? 100%. And we're talking 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking kids can now, there was one kid who goes to school, he's like a cat or something. All this weird shit out there now, and it's like...
He goes to the bathroom in a litter box.
Yeah, and then you and I, we're crazy that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. We've seen it, right? And, it's insane to me what's being done with the kids. And the lonely kid in high school now that, just might not be as good looking and just might not have a lot of friends, right away they're transgender. Right away they're bi, or right away...
Well, they get steered that way.
Yeah.
And
they find a clique that works.
A clique that works, or through the very adults that are supposed to be protecting them start to say, well, maybe you feel this way because you're in the wrong body.
Yeah.
or you're the wrong sex. You know, and they do that. I've seen the curriculum. I've seen, especially for guidance counselors and teachers, especially in the more liberal states, they get steered to have sex changes. Like a good buddy of mine, it was the Warrior Princess, right? He was a Navy SEAL, and pretty famously had a sex change, and then
Went back, right?
detransitioned. Luckily he didn't cut stuff off. But he got pushed into a sex change by a psychologist at the VA. And it's just like, even in the VA, they're doing this crap. Like, he was in a horrible mental state, struggling, all these things. And, he gets pushed to changing his sex. Like, that might be the solution.
And this is that time, a 40-year-old man, right?
Yeah.
40-something.
And he's great, he's getting very active, now, and trying to help others, man. And, he's crazy smart guy. So if it could happen to him, like a child,
Yeah.
And so, man, it's just.
Especially in the educational system, because when you're a kid, you think that your teachers are just the smartest people around. So when they start saying these things, like you said, maybe you're not in your right body. Maybe, you're just feeling a certain way because this isn't really who you are. Or if you start steering a kid's mind in that direction, they're going to follow most likely.
100%.
So that's where I have the most fear for our future is, and I've always said this, I don't have children yet. I'm still hopeful for that. But private school, I'm going to vet out the school system wherever they go and make sure that the bullshit's not being thrown in their face, because I'm not going to have my kid come home one day and be like, yeah, well, I really think I'm a boy, or I really think I'm a girl, or no. I'm like, no, you want to go play with the boys? You want to go kick their ass in sports? You want to beat the shit out of them?
Yeah.
Go ahead, but you're still a girl.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, right? So for me, I'm just, I'll be all hands on deck with that kind of stuff and making sure that, they're being taught the values and the belief systems that I believe in.
100%.
That is best for them. And the school systems are taking over parents' jobs in that regard, and it's sad.
They are. Well, I mean, but parents are letting it happen. And parents, here's the thing that most parents just really need to wake up to. And this is what I'm really trying to preach to, because kids are going to be kids, right? Parents need to be parents, right? And this is me talking to myself as well. I've made all these mistakes and had to try to correct. And it's hard to correct, especially when you make the technology mistakes. But kids these days spend about 10 hours on devices, iPads, iPhones, 10 hours on these things a day, right? So if they're in school 8 hours a day, hopefully sleeping 6 to 8 hours a day, I'm not good at math, right? But how many hours a day does that leave for them to be parented, to be playing outside, to be doing something with other kids in a physical or, an intimate environment, They're growing up online, right? Kids are living in the metaverse now. All of their interactions.
Which is a fake world.
Games, it's a totally fake world, but think about the dangers that opens up to. So even just for their developing into a fully functioning human being, right? So I'm 41, and this is one thing that I try to get parents to realize what's happening to kids is when we were children, right? When we were children, my generation, I think, was the last generation that got a classical education. We did not have, we had like maybe one computer in the classroom. The teacher used it. We were taught to show our work. We solved math problems by showing our work. We got just as much credit for the answer as we did the work, right? We had to learn how to do our own research, how to find answers. We weren't given an answer. You didn't Google an answer and just, this is the answer. You had to go to the library. You had to go to the card catalog. You had to find the book. You had to go read it. You had to go find the answers, and then you had to write reports.
So I remember all that.
You wrote reports about things. You had to digest information and then turn it into your intelligence, right? Just like what I do for a living and everything that I do. You take information and then you use your brain, you process it, and then you say, this is what this means to me. This book, this whatever, right? Science used to be a method, right? There used to be a scientific method where it was encouraged to challenge what we found, or challenge beliefs, challenge findings. Hey, at one point, someone thought the atom was the smallest thing, right? And then some guy came around, he's like, no, And then he found out there's electrons and protons. And then someone found out there's all these,
Yeah.
but it used to be encouraged to challenge science, to challenge what we know. And there was a process, a method to go through to do that properly, right? Well, that's what we were taught, And then debate. We couldn't just Google the answer to everything. We used to have conversations,
Right.
healthy disagreements, agree to disagree, And then we would develop not only how we interact with other people, but how we process information and how we deal with people, confrontational people, passive people, happy people, sad people. We learned in the human domain through mirroring and everything else how to develop as a person, which is crucial because guess what? We're still humans, right? Our children are getting none of those things now. AI writes their papers. The phone gives them the math answer, and then Google tells them everything they need to know. Google gives them the truth, right?
Rarely.
But but they are the arbiter of truth now, right? So
how many times have you been in an argument and somebody's like, Google it?
Yeah, right? And whatever Google says now is the authority. But how many times have we caught Google lying or changing a definition or altering things, right? So they're manipulating reality and they're conditioning children to just do what they're told and believe what they're told. And this started during COVID. This got really, really bad. We were divided during COVID to the woke and the awake, right?
Exactly. So true.
And so the woke just eat it up. The woke, half this country wanted to murder the other half of this country because they wouldn't get the vaccine and believing that us not being vaccinated was going to kill them all. The stupidity of COVID, the masks, the 6 feet apart, all this stuff that had no scientific basis whatsoever, that Fauci admitted later to just making up, right? They believed and still believe to this day that it's the right thing. They're going to stick an experimental vaccine in their bodies, which is murdering people around the world as we speak, because were told that is the way to fight a cold,
Some of these people are still driving around in their cars by themselves wearing masks.
Oh, 100%.
It's insane to me. And what I say all the time is COVID taught this country who's considered to be essential and who's not to be considered essential, right?
Yeah.
Think about this.
100%.
Gym owners, restaurant owners, nope, you gotta shut down. You're not allowed to earn a living. But you Amazon guys, go to work. You know what I mean? You people at Home Depot, Walmart, go to work. It's okay if you guys get sick. You're essential.
Well, because they're the minions. They're in the machine.
Exactly.
The people in the machine are crucial. The people that are independent, free-thinking, business owners, entrepreneurs, you guys are the threat. Yeah. Right?
And all us conspiracy theorists who knew that the vaccine was bullshit, who knew that the mask wasn't going to work, who knew that 6 feet meant nothing. Those of us who knew that it was bullshit when Navy SEALs were getting fired from their job, police officers getting fired from their job for not taking a vaccine. All of this stuff, we were right.
Yeah.
And all these idiots with their shots and their masks and, some of these contraptions that they came up with that they're just laughable.
Yeah.
Right? Like at the DMV or wherever else you had to go. But we ended up being right 100%. And it's funny to look back at. And it's not like an I told you so type of thing, but it's like how did you guys not know this?
Well, I say all that to say this. It happened through these.
Yeah.
We were able to brainwash they were able to brainwash half of this country through propaganda and these phones. And they were able to silence the other half of this country through these phones, right? Look at how much it's changed people. It's created these echo chambers, right? I never see anything anymore that challenges my beliefs. I only see things on my phone that I agree with, right? I only follow people that I agree with. I only interact with people that I agree with. In no way am I ever sitting down at a table with somebody who disagrees with me anymore. I would never put myself in that environment, not because I wouldn't want to, but because the world won't, because now I have my own echo chamber, which has created my own circle of friends.
Which is how we end up connected.
100%, right? So we're all living in our reality. Well, they're living in their own reality. Right. And we all think each other are insane. Well, what have you done at that point? You've destroyed America. You have destroyed America. America's already destroyed. People just don't realize it yet, right? There is no way that we can continue at the trajectory that we're going. It will implode. Yeah. Because Democrats and Republicans, we all used to be American first. We all used to believe that country came first. And we used to fight about social programs or how much money you're paying in taxes or, how much money goes to infrastructure, how much money goes to the military, how big, how powerful should the federal government be. That's what we used to fight about since the inception of this country till about, say, 15, 20 years ago. And then there started to be this divide where now it's like F America, socialism, communism, hate this country, hate the founding fathers, white supremacy, all these things where it's just hate. So you got half this country that ate the COVID stuff up, also hating America, hating white people, hating the founding fathers, hating patriotism, hating the military, hating every single thing that created the environment for them to be safe in to hate, right? Yeah. But I say all that to say this. It all happened because of this. The mind control device is in everyone's hands, okay? It has destroyed this country. It has destroyed our society. It has fractured us to where it is not repairable, right? The only solution to this at some point is chaos or somebody putting the boot on our throat, right? Putting us in a position like chaos to civil war or putting us in a position where we have no choice but to bend the knee because we can't feed our families. There's no way forward. We are never going to agree again at the rate that we're going. And people don't realize that. Because their echo chamber's not changing, our echo chamber's not changing, and we fundamentally don't agree on anything, much less the flag that flies over us. People need to wake up to how bad this really is.
Yeah.
My job was to destroy countries, right? That's what Green Berets do, unconventional warfare to overthrow or legitimize the government. That is our number one job. You can read it online. I know a thing or two about the steps and the things necessary to destabilize a society. We're destabilized. Yeah. There is no repairing this.
And I don't see anything, like you said, they have their echo chamber, we have ours. There's nothing in between, and there's nothing that's bringing that together.
You can't. It's by design. This is intentional.
Oh, 100%.
This is not an accident. This is an intentional thing. So in the meantime, right, the only way to stop it would be to raise a generation safe and free from that. But what do? Here, little Johnny.
It's impossible.
Here's a device that ruined this country and has destroyed every adult's mind in this country. I think it's a good idea for you to have one. Like you're literally handing your child heroin.
And they get the kids I've seen, kids I noticed now, they get the phones earlier and earlier. Like some parents used to be like 12 years old, you can get a phone. I didn't get a phone until I was like 19.
Yeah.
It was like 12, 10. Now the kids have cell phones at like 6 years old.
I screwed this up too. And this is what I want to know. I'm not bashing people. Sure. I did this too. Sure. And I have woken up, right? I hate to say that word right now. Change my mind.
There you go.
Change my mind. And it's like, because I've seen, what it's done even to my daughters. Yeah. I was excited to give my daughter her first phone at 10 years old. I was happy I could do that.
Right.
And she was excited to get it for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Luckily, my daughter's a saint, or at least I'm from what I've seen, right? Or she's good at faking it.
Yeah.
But what it's done to her friends, I don't know if it's even done to her. She's on it all the time, right? Because everyone's on it all the time. And it's like, how can I now take that back? And I'm divorced, so, I'm not there every day. But how can you, there's no taking that back. She's 16 now.
Oh,
Yeah, there's no changing what's been done. Right. But now I look at my 2-year-old, and I'm like, she's not going to know.
That's going to be different.
Oh, yeah. I won't even let her hold my phone.
Sure.
I won't even let her look at a picture on it. Why? Because I don't want her to think that this is life, And that's the parents don't see how early children are getting sexualized. We're finding 5- and 6-year-olds addicted to pornography.
That's crazy.
They don't you cannot protect your child. The number one thing that we are supposed to do as parents is protect our children and protect their innocence. Mm-hmm. You hand your child a phone, you cannot protect them. And I'm going to say that again. You hand your child a phone, you cannot protect them. I don't care what apps you put on that, they will find things that will destabilize their foundation and their growth. Things that they don't need, that they're not ready for yet, that the hormones haven't kicked in to get them ready for yet, the maturity hasn't kicked in to get them ready for yet, and that you're literally changing how their brain is wired. Look at how adults' brains have been wired. Marketing now, you've got to catch their attention in what, 15 seconds? If you don't have their attention in 15 seconds, they're not paying attention to it, right? Adults. Can you imagine what you're doing to a developing child's brain, handing them this phone at 4, 5, and 6 years old?
Yeah.
Or an iPad? You are literally having them grow up conditioned. Oh, well, they're like, all these kids are ADD. All these kids are autistic. All these kids have learning disabilities and disorders, and kids can't read, and kids don't know how to have conversations, and they're shy, and they're scared, and they're depressed, and they have problems. Well, you gave them a fucking phone.
Right.
What do you expect?
Right.
That's how serious this is. This is the worst thing that has ever happened to humanity, because we're humans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We are not technology. We are human beings.
Right.
We are biological creatures who have to be developed and raised and nurtured and sheltered and protected in certain ways to become fully functioning humans, yet we're letting technology come in there and take control of us.
Yeah, and I think we're naturally programmed to seek pleasure.
100%.
And there's so much pleasure that comes from this phone, whether it's, you get that message, the alert, the chemicals start going off in the brain, you get that DM in your Instagram, whatever. So that's what people are doing on here all day, seeking, that rush, that short-term rush. And it just feeds into that just pleasure-seeking behavior that we're naturally always trying to do, as opposed to seeking out hard things and conditioning our bodies and conditioning our minds to embrace that, as opposed to just naturally gravitating towards things that are easy.
100%.
Well,
man, I mean, look at how much entertainment, how many distractions, It's like Caesar, give them bread and circuses, right?
Yeah.
And they'll never revolt.
Yeah.
Well, you have something that's literally controlling your mind. Like, think about how much this phone controls your mind. Have you ever heard the term newspaper brain before? No. All right. So back before phones, and we'll say maybe back before cable TV was in everyone's home, right? Back before that, there's this thing called newspaper brain, where the only way you could access information and know what was going on in the world or even your community was what? The newspaper. The newspaper got delivered every morning, and when it was delivered, you had the day started, right, with dad and mom reading the newspaper. What's going on in the community? What's going on internationally? What's going on with finances? Who died? Everything that was going on in the world, that newspaper dictated your viewpoint on it. Whoever wrote that article pretty much steered you to look at that a certain way, right? Like, Russia's doing this. Fuck Russia. Whatever's happening in the economy. Oh, that's why this business merger is happening.
Yeah.
Whatever they tell you, for the most part, you're going to believe. But everyone in that city or that town or that state got the same information. They had the same newspaper brain. They were all conditioned to see the world the same way. Right? Now, of course, there would be outliers and people that questioned it and tinfoil hats and everything else, but the majority of society was all on the same page.
Right.
So they would go through the day, the socially acceptable topics, the problems that they were allowed to know about in the world. How would you know what was going on in Ukraine if it wasn't in the newspaper?
Right.
Right? Everything that you think about and you know about was dictated by that newspaper, right? Mind control. That's what it is. In a way, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, everyone's on the same page, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Well, fast forward to today, right?
Yeah.
You have your own conditioned brain. Even if we're in the same echo chamber, I'm in my own little Matt Murphy world, you're in your own little world, and it's dictated by what you put into every application, what you put into your phone, what you tell them you like, and they give it to you. But think about how easily they manipulate you, right? Every application is fighting for what? More of your time. Because there's more ads, more things they can make you think about, more things they can make you do, right? If you haven't, the Social Experiment, that documentary on Netflix, right? I think every parent should watch that. The people who develop this stuff don't let their kids on it.
Right.
Why are you? Right? It's just, it's how bad it is. And they're like, oh, well, everyone's doing it. Well, okay, if this is more addictive than heroin, Like, and everyone's doing heroin. I'm not giving my daughter a heroin needle and saying, good luck, kid. Everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like the only way we save this country is change course, man. We have to change course, and we have to wake up and realize we're human beings. We are not a computer.
Yeah.
We are people, and we need to be protected, raised, nurtured, sheltered, and we have to grow in a certain way. We have to grow up as people, because if we grow up as technology, we become one with the system, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
We are not made to be on phones all day. We are made to be our own free thinkers, make our own decisions, chart our own way. And if you look at this becomes systematically more important too when you look at the foundation of what America's about, the rights of the individual, right? Well, if everyone's individually sucked up into technology and is whatever they want you to be, thinking about whatever they think about, where your unalienable rights start from?
Yeah.
Where does you as the individual start? Where's Denny? Where's Matt? Right? That's what freedom is.
Right.
Not a collective groupthink. It's I'm my own person, and you're your own person. And I will fight for you to be your own person as long as you're not violating the rights of others.
Right.
Right? So this groupthink, these echo chambers that we get pulled in through these all day long, takes away our individuality, making us think we're more individual than ever.
Right.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
Right? That's the game.
That's funny, yeah.
Right? But that's literally the foundation of our Constitution. Freedom works from the individual rights. So if I erase someone's identity, if I tell them they can be whatever they want to be, they can have sex with whatever they want to have sex with, they can believe whatever they want to believe, now within reason, right? Well, what have you done? They're not an individual anymore, right? I'm a girl today, I'm a guy tomorrow, maybe I'm going to be a cat next week. I don't know. Like, the cat looks cute, I'm going to be a cat. You know, like if you're a kid, you know, and you're like, and you have no protection, you have no shelter, and you're just eating up everything this phone gives you, and you're like, what's a blowjob, or what's anal sex, what's a butt plug? You know, like, and you're 5 years old, because these kids are seeing this stuff. What's pornography? What's a threesome? What's a tranny gangbang? Kids are seeing this stuff. Wow. You know? Now think about what that does to their development. So if everything is shown to them, and everything is acceptable, and everything is okay, what is wrong?
Nothing.
Right? What's wrong?
Yeah.
If at 5, 6 years old, if everything's okay, then you as an individual, what do you stand for? Right? And if you go back to the individual, what will you fight for? What line will they not cross? So look at our kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally do anything and they'd be like, that's cool.
Yeah. I think
You know?
I think the most sensitive and just morally bankrupt lines have already been crossed.
They have.
You know, and it's the sexualization of the kids. It's the openness of like just nudity and all that stuff. I think that's the absolute worst thing you can do to a child's development.
It destroys them. Your sexuality is the foundation of everything you become. Yeah. And as parents, you have to protect your child's sexuality with your life. Yep. And because here's why. You know, it's not just sex. Like, I'm a boy, right? I was born with boy parts, right? So my foundation, right, is I am a boy. My sexuality is I am a male, right? So if you make me play with Barbie dolls and you make me play with doll houses and you make me wear little pink dresses and all this kind of things, and that's all I know, well, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm going to start to like the dolls, or maybe I'm going to start to like the doll houses, but what are you really doing? Part of me, I always know it's wrong. This isn't right. Yeah. This is all I've got, but my testosterone's not developing now. I physically, as a male, am not developing properly now because you're putting me in a channel, right, of developing like a girl that has estrogen. Yeah. And you're having girls with estrogen start to become boys. Well, foundationally, now you're already off course. So that's going to mess you up mentally. That's going to mess you up physically. And through, as a child, your brain's clay, your body's growing. If you mess up that development, then you're going to be a dysfunctional person.
Sure.
There's no fixing that, right? So you're also not going to be an individual. So boys need to fight. Yep. They need to wrestle. They need to play outside. They need to build that ramp and jump their bike off of it and maybe forget to wear a helmet. Yeah. They need those experiences. That's what boys need. They need to develop testosterone to become a man. They need that. And then guess what they need when they become teenagers and hit puberty? The hunt, right? The chase, right? The game.
Yeah.
You got to they want the women develop testosterone, right? Yeah. Women need it a completely different way, but they need that same shelter and that same path to become effeminate and become a woman. But we're crossing all the lines and crossing all the swords of development, so people are just confused, and they're angry, and they're irrational, and they're depressed, and they're doing drugs, and they're drinking, and they're fucking, a furry.
Yeah.
And one day, man, and it's just, it all starts at that foundation. And the research is out there that proves everything that I'm saying, but you can't look at science anymore. You look at feelings. You can't look at logic. You look at whatever the group is doing. Logic is dead, right? Yeah. Science is dead. Science is what they tell you. Trust the science. Well, however, you didn't do science. You just told me something. Like science used to be a whole thing, not you just telling me it's science.
Yeah, and the best thing you could ever do back then was challenge science a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
Well, you had to.
Yeah,
not a little bit, a lot of it.
And now it's like nobody. They don't want to be challenged. Or nobody wants to be challenged anymore. But I do want to. I want to segment into just probably our last topic here, but. And I think it definitely ties into all the work that you've done around the world, the work that, you talked about a little bit earlier. But, I spent a year in Afghanistan, and I'm of the school of thought where, that shit was going on for a long time, 20 years. Mm-hmm. At some point, like, it was time to, move on or, figure out a way to figure out a way to do that the right way. I was absolutely disgusted and angry about, I was in Ghazni province, Afghanistan, and seeing our tanks and our equipment being driven through the same streets that I used to go through, man, that boiled my blood. And I want to get your thoughts on that because so much of that became a humanitarian rescue mission. Mm-hmm. And, I'm guessing you were a part of that. I don't know. Yeah. But I want to hear not only, your thoughts of the withdrawal, but the work that it went into, getting all of our people out there safe.
Yeah. Well, one thing, man, we did it right and we did it wrong. Well, here's what I mean. The cost that it would have taken to bring all that equipment home would not have been worth it. The logistical mechanisms and the cost to bring all that home was not worth it. But it should have been destroyed.
Yes.
Right? So when people are like, oh, we shouldn't have pulled out that way, like, you're half right.
Right.
You're half wrong.
And I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah,
it's like, I understand, like, leaving it there, but you don't leave it functioning.
Yeah, you destroy it.
Right.
And, or you find ways to sell it and move it into other places. But again, there's not a whole lot of allies and a lot of things right there. Yeah. The way we pulled out was wrong. We just left. There was no process to do that. Now, you can go conspiracy theory all day, and maybe they wanted them to have all that stuff and kill each other. I don't know, man. Sure. There's always a plan that goes wrong when it comes to the U.S. government, man.
Yeah.
And dude, you can't see the future. In the government's defense, in some ways, a lot of things you hope will happen don't happen, sure. Right? And you can't always.
You've been on a million ops,
right.
Like shit breaks down, you got to pivot. So I understand that,
dude. My company, we solve problems globally. That's what we do. And through strategic intelligence and targeting methodology and a lot of other things I don't talk about on the camera, but. And I have been involved in a lot of things that the government's done right, and I've been involved in a lot of things that the government's done wrong. Afghanistan was an absolute disaster, all the whole way around, because you plan for that, you prepare for that, that is a whole process to withdraw from a country, right? That has to be strategically planned, almost as much as when you go in to attack it, invade it, and occupy it, right? Well, we didn't do any of that, right? We just said, all right, we're out. Now, multiple level problems. Yes, we left functional weapons, tons of equipment, helicopters, tanks, you name it. We left a lot of that stuff functional and usable. Huge, huge mistake. We left a lot of money, a lot of bases, a lot of resources that they can then utilize there. Rooms full of cash, just left, right? And that's... But,
just
again,
that tax dollars, no big deal.
But again, if you look at it from a strategic standpoint, I can see the argument. Well, hey, like, what are we going to do? Bring it back and blow it? Money's not real anyways. Like, they'll do something stupid with it in a couple of years. It'll be gone, and who cares? Mm-hmm. You know, I do see there is a logical thought process behind a lot of this type of stuff. When you think big picture, does it matter, right? Or these weapons, big picture, yeah, man. How long will they actually work the way they take care of them? They don't even have parts to fix stuff. You know, so there is a logical thought process there too. Fuck it, we'll leave it. They'll break it. You know, and they break everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, you know, they'll kill each other with it. So I can see both sides, but there was not a plan, obviously, right? That there was not a thought, there was no thought put into this.
Sure.
But the most tragic mistake I believe we made with Afghanistan was that we left people who were loyal to us, who fought for us, who had lost family members in parts of their lives for our country. We abandoned them. And I don't care about the equipment or the money or all that kind of stuff. I just care about people, man. And that was a tragic mistake. And I don't know how anyone could have not thought that through.
And I'd agree with you on that from the perspective of the people that helped us do our jobs. I mean, if you worked with a million interpreters over there, I worked with great interpreters over there, and to think that, you know, maybe their families are targeted now, maybe, you know, they're unsafe now because we're not there. You know, that doesn't sit well with me, because I feel like anybody who helped us do our work, you know, they should have been brought back here and taken care of and given asylum, whatever they call it. Because those guys, we couldn't have done our work without them.
Yeah. Well, man, you know, it was hell because, you know, with the position that I was in, you know, orchestrating a lot of this, you know, for about a year, I couldn't even look at my WhatsApp. You know, I had so much PTSD and memory from it because my WhatsApp was just, you know, passed throughout the country, you know, to families who needed help. You know, and I have families begging for their lives, sending me pictures of their kids, passports. You know, my WhatsApp turned into a graveyard, man. That was a rough time, man. And in trying to organize and decide who gets to be in the safe house, who needs to be on that plane, or who do we try to get out on the ground, or a lot of people didn't make it, man.
Sucks. Yeah.
You know, and you feel responsible for that because you said, "Hey, here I am. I'll do it." And I know it's not my fault, but still, you know, like it just doesn't make it easier.
Yeah.
You know, and we did the best we could. We helped as many people as we could, and we helped a lot. But you know, there was definitely families I know that didn't make it. It was actually kind of cool. A few months ago, this family I was working with, he was an engineer. You know, I tried every way from Sunday to get him out of country. He kept messing it up. And I was worried about him. A couple kids, a wife, and everything. And he finally got out of there like 3 months ago and texted me on WhatsApp. He's like, "Bad, I'm in America." I'm like, "Well, good for you, bud."
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
You know. But it's just like we kept the mechanisms to get in and out of country open for a long time.
Wow. Nice.
And, I mean, the U.S. government used our mechanisms to get in and out of the country at times.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like that's what I've kind of realized. And again, it's not just me, man. I am surrounded by a lot of amazing people. You know, just because of the position I have, I end up being the one on the mic a lot more often, and they like to live in the shadows. But you know, there's a lot of amazing people out there that have picked up the slack and done what America should be doing. Because even though our government might be on the wrong track, and even though our leaders might be making terrible decisions, and our bureaucracies and our institutions are broken, that doesn't mean the American spirit is, and patriotism is not. There are a lot of good Americans out there doing a lot of amazing things, taking their money, their time, risking their lives to do what should be done, do the right thing. Not just fighting human trafficking, but helping people. And I'm surrounded by heroes at Sentinel, man. The best of the best that this country has to offer. We got the best hacker in the world on the team, Ryan Montgomery. He's one of the best. He hates when we say that. You know, he's our CTO. He runs our tech for Sentinel. We've got amazing guys from the unit. One guy's getting put in for a Medal of Honor from Benghazi right now. You know,
wow.
yeah. He went in there and murdered everybody and got the ambassador's body back, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. We have some heroes on our team, man.
That's awesome.
And I'm just honored to be able to stand with them, you know, in this fight.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. We solve problems that require a special operations approach, man. And or that methodology to do it. You know, I guess the most recent, we don't talk a lot about our human trafficking rescues, only to donors. And there's the reason for that is there is a level of OPSEC that we have to keep in order to continue to operate in countries. The people who donate the big bucks know the truth, you know.
Yeah.
And we have to have it that way.
Sure.
You know, we're not trying to be cool.
Fair.
We're not trying to be heroes. We're not trying to be, no offense, Tim Ballard in a movie. We're just deed, not the glory, man. It ain't about me. It ain't about them. It's about the kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's our motto, deed, not the glory. Glenn Devitt and Jameson Gavani, who started Sentinel, that was the standard they set in starting this. And now that we're trying to grow Sentinel, we're having to make it public, and we're trying to figure out what's the best way. Because I don't want anyone to think I'm a hero. I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm just doing what I can, what I'm good at. You know, that doesn't make me any better or different than anyone else. I want you to be kissing my ass. You know, but that's how everybody at our organization is. It's not about us. It's about them, you know. So we're trying to keep that mentality in a world where it's all about me, 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 me. Look at me. Look at me. I'm so cool. I'm so famous. Follow me. Listen to me. Me, 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 me. I hate that shit, man.
Yeah.
Social media has destroyed humanity in so many different ways. But it's also destroyed the collective because we're all becoming these individuals, fighting for followings, fighting for likes, fighting for influence. People will throw someone under the bus just to be the guy, the human trafficking guy, or the whatever guy, or the podcast guy, you know. And it's like everyone's fighting for that attention, and I fucking hate it.
I was talking to George about that. We were having lunch yesterday, and you know, man, it's the guys and a lot of guys in that space or just whatever that are out there, man, they're like divas. They're like high school chicks when it comes to this stuff about, like you said, the likes, the follows, and
what's intoxicating? It's addicting. Yeah. You start to think you're someone you're not because somebody on social media, something that's not real, right? Let me start preface. This is not fucking real life. Right? Instagram is not a real thing. It's just this stupid thing online. If the power goes out, guess what? It's gone. If you can't connect to a cell phone tower, Instagram is not real, right? It's not real life. And people's identities and influencers, I hate it.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you have a nice ass or a good voice does not mean someone should listen to you, right? It does not mean your opinion is important. What is your credibility?
Exactly. What's your resume look like?
To be able to speak with authority on this. Because if you don't have the position of authority to give your opinion on things, shut the fuck up. Because you're making this country worse, right? Because everyone that just has a following has an opinion now.
Yeah.
It's like Taylor Swift. She has a history of making the worst decisions ever with relationships, and yet she's now the one to endorse the proper president, right? You know, like she became a billionaire off of bad decisions in relationships and picking the wrong ones. Like, dude, I've been divorced more times than I can count. If you ever got marriage advice from Matt Murphy, don't take it. You know, like I can tell you everything not to do, right? Yeah. You know, man, you know, and that's the thing, man.
And that's what I said to George yesterday. I'm like, everybody online wants to be an online coach, right?
Yeah.
Because he's getting into coaching, but he's one of the guys that I would, if I wanted.
Well, he's got credibility.
Exactly.
To coach.
Exactly. So I would go to George for that, and I think he's credible. But there's so many guys out there who haven't been the guy. And if you haven't been the guy, then I don't want you fucking coaching me. I don't want your advice.
Dude.
Unless you can tell me you completely fucked this up.
Uh-huh.
You're not telling me how to fix it.
Yeah.
You have to tell me how you fixed it, and you have to have done it before you're going to coach me on how to do it.
100%.
You know, like
I can't. Do you know how many people reach out to me and like, Matt, I want to coach you? I'm like, okay.
I get them every day.
And I'm like, well, on what?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to teach me how to play baseball, man? Like, I mean, seriously, like I'm not being an asshole here, but what the fuck have you done to be able to reach out to me and say, I'm going to coach you on how to be a better executive or a better business leader or whatever? It's like, bro, you're 22. Yeah. Like, you just got out of college, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Like, you need to chill out.
I get that, too.
Yeah.
The fitness ones are the best. Like,
yeah.
Daddy, let me get you on this program. It's like, what? The guy who does my program is a 38-year-old ex-Army Ranger who did, bodybuilding, strongman. You know, he's a buddy of mine, and I trust him.
Yeah.
He's been the guy. You're 23 years old, and you have good genetics, so you look good.
Yeah. You ain't coaching me on shit,
You're not coaching me, bro.
Well, dude, I'll tell you this, man. I made this because I started to dislike a lot of things, right? I made this thing, it's just called my non-negotiables. I read this every morning when I wake up. But it's not right when I wake up because my phone is not the first thing I touch, right? Okay. I touching other stuff before I get out of bed. Get out of bed, right? Get out of bed, a cup of coffee, walk around, get outside if the weather's nice enough, or just outside for a minute. You know, have some thoughts, have some prayers. But then I go and I read this. Rule number 1, stay humble. Rule number 2, give credit where it's due. Give credit where it's due. Rule number 3, never take the credit and give thanks. Rule number 4, stay hungry, right? We got to stay hungry. You've never made it. And if you think you fucking made it, you haven't. Rule number 5, never entertain criticism or advice from someone you don't respect or that is doing less than you. Right? That is the one thing that I've had to remember, because I used to get so in the weeds with, oh, they don't like me, or they're talking shit about me, or like, why would you say that on this post? I'm just trying to save kids. It's like, they don't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Right? And so rule number 6, stole this from SF, always look cool. Rule number 7, never get lost. Rule number 8, if lost, look cool. But this is really where my life started to change, man, about who I am as a person and the development. It's just always give forgiveness, grace, and love. Those are the 3 most important things in my life right now. Forgiveness, grace, and love. But here's the key thing that I had to learn through a lifelong making these mistakes and not being that, is know the difference between when and how to apply them, right? Because, you know, that's the most important part. Forgiveness, grace, and love, it's easy to say what they are, but you got to know what they are, and you have to know when and how to apply them. Because some of them are for others and some of them are for you, right? You know, rule number 10, never seek vengeance, only justice. And then, you know, this is a little crass for there, but, you know, no one can fuck my day up that isn't making me money that I didn't make, that isn't making me a better person, or that isn't fucking me. And then rule number 12, it's rarely, if ever, someone else's fault. Own it.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? So, and I adjust rules as needed, but I just figured, like, in this world where everything's fake, in this world where nothing is real, in this world where, like, you know, everyone is pretending to be things and trying to be things in some fake world where if the power goes off or the cell phone tower shuts down, it's gone. Yeah. I got to figure out how to be the best version of me, the person, the human that I am, if I'm going to make the world a better place, and I'm going to attract the right people in my life. So that's my start, man.
And I do the same exact thing. I have it in my phone. I think it's so important to have those principles to live by in that guide, right? The thing that you check on every single day. I have it too, right? And I live my life off of 4 principles, and that's what I base this podcast off. And that's setting standards, creating habits, executing, and holding yourself accountable, right? Owning it, like you said.
Got to.
And another thing I love to say is, you know, you're never going to be criticized by somebody doing more. It's only the trolls online that are going to be running their mouths and saying shit, and it's always somebody that has less credibility than you.
100%.
So I love that. I love the principles. I love, the most part, the work that you're doing. It's been absolutely an honor to sit here and talk to you and to meet you, and I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming in, and man, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. Yeah. Because, man, it seems like you don't stop. It seems like you're going to keep going.
No. Well, I mean, you know, my company has expanded all over the world in the past 2 months, man. What's happened in my life right now just doesn't make sense, brother. You know, the impact we're having on humanity, the difference, because even in my company, it's helping people, you know. And, I mean, I was I can't say the country, but I was living in Africa for the past month, in the Middle East doing some things. 400 meters from the house I was living in, 10 Bangladeshi men were dumped in a ditch that had been tortured because they were being labor trafficked, and this group decided they were going to try to extort money out of their families by torturing them and abusing them. And then when they didn't get the money, they just killed them and dumped them in a ditch less than 400 meters from the house I was living in.
That's crazy.
You know, and so we, of course, we're looking into that. But, man, I appreciate you saying that, man. But I don't know. God's got me on a mission, man, paying a purpose. He's got me doing something.
You're being called for sure.
But that's the thing. This ain't the Matt show. It's his show. I'm just the asshole that works here. And, you know, man, I just, you know, you just got to stay humble in that. You know, I've seen a lot of people get out there and do a lot of good things and then become a gigantic piece of shit because they let the fame or the notoriety or the money or all that get to their heads. And that ain't me, bro. No. You know, I talk shit on Instagram. Look on it about 20 minutes a day, and I'm out. Yeah. You know, that ain't my life.
I love that.
You know,
how can people help?
Man, we always need donations, man. That's the biggest thing. We've got an amazing team. We've got a Rolodex for days of operators and talented people. You know, we have a training course. We put the people that we want to go through on it because, again, we do things in a very specialized way. We try to do things in the right way. We're not vigilantes. We're not fucking out there just, you know, trying to, quote unquote, make a name for ourselves. We're just trying to do the right thing and help law enforcement, help militaries, help people save kids.
That's awesome.
So, you know, always money.
What's
we
the
can always
website?
do money. FoundationSentinel.org.
Awesome.
But we're also on. I mean, we're shadow banned all the time. You know, we fight in the shade, so to speak. You know,
Yeah.
the joke is like Leonidas. You know,
Sure.
We'll fight in the shade. We'll have to because they don't like us. So Instagram, Facebook. I think we have an X. I hope we don't have a TikTok. We might. I don't keep up. You know, and look at that stuff. I hate it, man. But yeah, they can donate through the socials. There's links, but our website, we're Sentinel Foundation, but you know, somebody had already, it's the internet, bought it. So the website is foundationsentinel.org. But yeah, man, we appreciate any support. You know, we keep people updated with mostly the humanitarian rescue stuff we do.
Yep.
You'll see that. Maybe some human trafficking stuff, but just the reality is, you know, a lot of that has to happen behind closed doors.
Sure.
And, you know, I guess our credibility just comes in with the people that know, that publicly get behind us and support us. You know, we just did a big rescue in Haiti, 59 disabled children in the middle of their war, you know, their civil war that they had going on. 59 disabled children were surrounded by gang territory, and the boys put a plan together and got them all. Dude, it's insane.
That's awesome, dude.
They're actually, The Rock's stunt double is
cool.
making a movie about it because he went on the rescue operation.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so man, I mean, we just got an amazing community of people that have come together to do good shit, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, man, that's awesome. Again, I love the work you're doing. It's special. It's purpose driven. It's impactful. So,
Thank you.
I mean, just let me know how I can help at any point. And it's
Brother,
been a
I
pleasure.
appreciate you.
Really
And man, I love
appreciate
what you're doing, man, because, you know, creating a space for people to be able to share what they're doing, you know, is important. Because, man, like, you know, human trafficking, it's not just my thing, right? You know, a lot of us are fighting it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm no hero, and you know, if it resonates with, if what I'm doing resonates with somebody, yeah, please support us. But you're giving so many other people a platform to talk about the impact that they're having, because there's so many fucking problems, and there's so many people doing so many great things, man. So I love what you're doing with the podcast.
For me, I appreciate that. For me, it's just about having quality people on and
Yeah.
people with quality missions, with impactful objectives that they're trying to accomplish and achieve.
Yeah.
That's what it's about for me, man. Just getting good people on here, spreading the right messages, and you're definitely at the top of the list of guys that I've had on and had the privilege of speaking with. So
I appreciate
love
that,
it, brother.
brother. Just another dude out there, but much love for you too, man. And